Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling. You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Games to the Max. This is number 224, and I'm your host Sean Garmer, and here with me as always, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
And back with us again, Mr. Jens Dietrich.
Ahoy hoy.
Well, guys, it's another week, and another week where some states have already started to open. So, and Jens has already been dealing with it for a while. So,
Well,
how are you?
most restaurants still it seems to be a slow rollout, at least in the city. I don't know what the rest of the state is doing. I honestly have been so away I still haven't left the house, so I haven't taken any advantage of whatever reopenings there have been. I'm sitting this out as long as I can.
I like how Georgia opened up all the places that you think don't need to be open right now, and then every other state goes, yep, we're doing the opposite.
Yeah, it's weird.
Thing.
Well, your Michigan governor is doing the exact opposite, right? She extended it to like May 28th.
15th.
15th? Okay.
So
yeah,
far.
I think it's Wisconsin, because they had that plant breakout or whatever that extended it to like May 26th or something, and then a lot of places are 15th.
Maybe I'm just mixing up a couple of different news stories in my brain here.
Marc's still dealing with the protesting people.
Yeah, maybe it's in the state house or whatever.
You're dealing with? Have you actually run into them?
Oh no, God no! Because they're all rednecks who live up on the Upper Peninsula.
Okay.
It's crazy, like they're all showing up there with their guns and stuff, and you're like, what the hell?
Because the guns are the only way you can fight a virus.
Yeah, that virus don't give two craps about those guns, folks. Y'all keep going with that. But yeah, so we have a few more things that are obviously being affected by this virus, which is, I guess we can start with the news this time. So it's, EVO and Dota 2 International and the Fortnite World Cup have all been canceled due to, COVID-19 concerns. I think EVO's actually having a digital event instead. And yeah, everything else is just kind of being canceled, and Dota International is most likely going to now happen in 2021 instead.
Yep.
I mean, not surprising really, but hey, you know.
You'll disagree when I say this, but the one silver lining to this whole thing, if it lasts long enough, is that football might get canceled this year.
It's not. It'll happen without people in the stands. They've already said it.
I think there's some soccer team or some football club in the UK who's thinking about adding like a CGI crowd to the stands.
Wow, people that
and I'm just really hoping they use the technology from Forza Motorsport 5, that first Xbox One game, because it had such bad crowds that, like, they just had like the same four people copy and paste it over and over.
That would be nuts, but I guess if that helps them, I guess be able to play better or whatever.
It's the same guy with the red t-shirt and the hat. I guess he's here 800 million times.
No, this is not a political podcast.
Oh, no, it's not political. We're just.
Yeah, I said red shirt and white hat.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, no, definitely. I think they've already, I think, delayed the season. It's not going to start in September, and that's going to start in October. But I think they'll find a way. I just can't imagine when you have a chance to just. I know baseball didn't actually technically start either, but when you have that much time to think about it, and you could much more simply you don't let anyone into the stadiums.
Right.
I think it's much easier to handle, but yeah. But hey, one thing that is happening, and it was, it was announced today by Jeff Keighley, so we kind of found out what Jeff Keighley was really doing when he was saying no to E3, is organizing this Summer Game Fest, which, if successful, honestly, I think it could go on to really just put a absolute pin in E3. Go ahead.
No, you talk about it first.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if they're still since Gamescom is supposedly the end of it, which I don't really know if you're gonna have all these companies have things before then. What the heck are you showing at Gamescom? But either way, so the whole point is that instead of having one event stretched over about 5 or 6 days, you have it stretched over the entire summer period, with at least one thing happening every week, if not multiple things happening every week from May until September? Or is it May until August? May until August.
It's just a smart way of promoting these reveals that were probably just going to happen anyway, right? So this is good thinking on Jeff Keighley's part of, okay, there's companies are going to have to do their reveals. They're going to do streams. Let's get everybody together and brand it and promote them as kind of a series, right?
Yeah, but I think what's also helpful here is you're not everybody trying to crunch and cram to make a demo for one event for one day. Instead, you have a 4-month timeline where you can already be pre-planning. Okay, how far along are we? Do we think we'll make it by June? No, how about July? How about August? I mean, you have a 4-month period to be able to kind of
it's flexible.
Like just mosey along and then complete it when you can, and then announce your event, and then you have it, you know? So I think this is much better. And yes, it is technically just promoting a bunch of things that probably would have been a lot of it at E3 or just all done at Gamescom or whatever. But this is also better for the news cycle as well. Everybody kind of gets to have their own day or week.
Right. It's flexible. It gives everyone space.
Yeah, and it's also not killer on the press people as well. You're not having to like hunker down and be like, okay, we got to write about 20 million things in one day either. You know, it's great for everybody. So I don't know. I mean, is it a bad thing? Is there a bad thing to this at all?
I'm taking that it's a bad thing position. I don't need to have 4 fucking months of game news. I am, hey, it might be hard on game journalists for the 1 week. I'm way more happy with that when my Twitter feed isn't going to be cluttered every announce day for the next 4 months about, hey, here's a new game from the Hotline Miami studio, or, you know, this indie game that probably would have been brushed over if it wasn't like good looking for E3. Like I don't need 4 months of this crap.
Damn, that's one way to look at it.
Sounds like you just don't like the discourse.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we're not talking about indie games. We're talking about the big publishers. Everybody basically except Nintendo.
It's not enough. I don't think there's enough good games to even qualify that. First of all, considering how decentralized E3 is now.
The thing that I would like to ask you both, because I'm really curious and I'm trying to decide this for myself, which would make you more likely to overlook a game? If it were spaced out like this and it could just trickle out any day, there could be like something that gets announced that you may or may not pay attention to, or it all being crammed together into a few days over the course of a big
I think
conference.
It's easier to miss a game like for the regular E3 because it is so concentrated.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that method leads to surprises. Like you can find, if you watch like an E3 game, you know, wrap up video or something, hey, you can go, hey, this one game was interesting. Let me go try to find out more about it. If every week there's some like one new game or 1 or 2 new games they talk about for the entire week, which is overkill, you just get bored of it or just ignore it after a while.
Yeah. I can see that to some degree.
Okay, if we're going to take the game press side of it out, which that's partially what we are, which if I'm just a consumer, I enjoy E3 because you get to live in it for like that week and then it's over and you go back to normal life. And
well, it's like the same thing as like the San Diego Comic-Con.
Right.
I mean, Jens, you don't care about that, about like, you know, the Marvel trailer or whatever, new Marvel trailer, but a lot of people do. And it's very comparable to, you know, that format.
But those trailers also get a lot of attention just being kind of trickled out over social media.
I mean, yeah, because like they are like, you know, a new Marvel game.
But it's because of that event though. a lot of it also is the fact that people are trying to hide in, like, you're not supposed to show it, right? It's a hidden thing. It's like a big deal if you got to go and see it. And then when it gets finally leaked online, that's when everybody goes crazy because, oh my God, I'm getting to see this thing I wasn't supposed to see. And, whatever.
Well, no, I mean, my position is like, there's like, let's say 2 or 3 Marvel movies per year.
Right.
That's a far cry. Like, you don't have you wouldn't have 4 months of new Marvel trailers. It's like, hey, here's the 48th trailer for Doctor Strange 2. It's like, at a certain point, I don't care.
So your argument, in a nutshell, Mark, is that it's just easier to generate hype with a conference.
I mean, I think it's that. I think it's easier just in general to like view everything you would want. Like, I don't need to be, blue balled for 4 months about, hey, I want to hear about this one game. Hey, that's going to be in the third week of August slot. Well, call me when that happens, I guess. Or I'll probably just forget about it at that point.
I don't necessarily think we're gonna... Okay, so my take on it is that I think this is better this way for the perspective of what we're seeing right now with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't necessarily think we're going to see with every publisher that has one of these events. I think Assassin's Creed Valhalla is getting this because Ubisoft was already planning their own event. Microsoft might have, made a deal with them. Hey, we're going to be one of the first ones to do this summer gaming thing next week on May 8th. It's all third-party related. You're one of the biggest third parties that is going to be on there. And Ubisoft said, oh, we'll go ahead and do a little teaser for our game, and then we'll do gameplay at your show. I don't think we're not going to have 2K and Bandai Namco and Square Enix and Warner Brothers all do exactly what you're saying, blue ball somebody into, oh, hey, in August, you're going to see a conference and this big game you're waiting to hear about is going to be there. I think you're going to know, just like E3, I think it's going to be more like E3. You're going to know this company is doing this slot. And maybe they do a little bitty teaser, but I don't think you're getting like what you're getting with the Assassin's Creed game here, where you're getting hard teased to wait a week.
It's not what they did in Assassin's Creed. Has not been a tease. It's been a disaster.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk about that. But honestly, I think from a Games Press perspective, this is great because what happens? This means guaranteed every week on this show we have something to talk about.
There'll be content, sure. Yeah,
So,
I mean, to me, I don't know if I'm ready to concede that this is better than a traditional trade show, but obviously for the current times, this is basically as ideal a solution as you can have. Well, so, regardless of whether it's better or not to have this stuff spaced out, I mean, obviously you wouldn't release everything on the same day in this model. So,
my other problem is, like, didn't IGN or GameSpot already kind of announce this like a month ago?
Is that a problem?
No, IGN is doing their own thing, which I don't know how that affects this.
I mean, IGN, no offense to Jeff Keighley, IGN is way more cemented in the gaming landscape than Jeff Keighley. I mean,
yeah, but this is not like Jeff Keighley Presents. This is just called Summer Gaming Fest or whatever.
You don't think he's going to be hosting it?
He is hosting it.
Yeah, he'll produce exactly. It and he'll host it. He'll introduce everything. He'll curate, I think is.
And no offense to him, but like his gaming award shows aren't great, like for that stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think we're talking about like. I mean, honestly, we don't know after the first Xbox one where all these slots are going to land, and if they're going to have days where you have a few one after the other, or is this all going to be everybody gets their own day or whatever? We still don't know what's going to happen. Are we just getting little like, Nintendo Directs, and then Gamescom is still going to have the big press conference? I mean, that's what's going to weird is Gamescom is the end of this. What is going to be Gamescom now if all these other things are happening before then, but I don't know, because I mean, it's just one of those, like, I think we have to kind of see a few of these first. But I also wonder if, let's say Microsoft comes and like knocks it out of the park, right? And then Square Enix comes and has like a so-so event. The thing that helps with E3 is a lot of that kind of gets smoothed over, and you don't necessarily focus on, oh, Bandai Namco had these like 4 games and none of them, I'm sorry, I shouldn't point out Bandai Namco because they're very nice in working with us, but, whatever, Blizzard has a event where they show a bunch of stuff that isn't really well received, and you talk about that, and you're talking about them in a bad way, whereas you hardly ever talk about them, not Blizzard for instance, but let's say it's a different company, like they normally don't get press like that, and it doesn't turn out well for them.
Well, that's another thing about E3 is like that, let's say Ubisoft did have a bad press conference. Hey, by the next day, people have forgot about it because Nintendo have had theirs or Sony will have had theirs. This, let's say Blizzard does have a bad, show, which is likely considering their games. It's going to be mocked for the next week.
Yeah, I mean, like Marc said, Jeff Keighley is producing this, and he is going to curate content for the event as well as host and produce pre and post show specials for some of these big reveals.
He has an agenda. Like I don't feel like E3 has an agenda, but theirs is fairly non-committal. I mean, just going to throw everything at the wall. Like he clearly has certain games or certain companies that will pay him more for more access, and it's like that's gross.
I mean, he also has an agenda in that he really wants.
Or I mean, let's say he likes a game, he'll probably give it more airtime, but who knows if the game's gonna be good or not? Like E3 just has here are the 4 or 5 game companies they can show whatever the hell they want. Like, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're also paying for that at E3 at a preposterous amount that, as Sony said, is getting increasingly more expensive to the point where is it worth it for us to spend that kind of money? And I don't blame them. Whereas, okay, you're getting a digital event. Maybe Jeff Keighley's getting some money, but I don't think he's getting the kind of E3 money for curating this into a digital thing where they don't really need it, So, yeah, I'm a little more curious about how this is going to go off and how this is all going to be spaced out and everything else. And if it works, and if you really do get people interested in it, but it's like, Microsoft doesn't really need to tie themselves to this. They could have just announced, we're doing a thing on May 8th. And honestly, I didn't know until it was in a news release that this was supposedly tied to it. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'm sure he's going to have some kind of big banner at the beginning before each show like E3 does, and you'll know it's part of that. But yeah, I just wonder, I want to see how in your face that is and how much we're going to remember that it being Summer Game Fest, or how we're going to remember each one of these companies just had their own like direct thing. Speaking of that, something we talked about last show a little bit was the Last of Us 2 leak, and that we had thought that it was involving a Last of Us 2 like disgruntled employee and all of that. Well, apparently, even though there was some bogus report from somebody on Reddit about who it was from and what it entailed and everything, in a statement to GameIndustry.biz, Sony confirmed that they know who it is, but they're not allowed to divulge who it is due to legal ramifications and all that.
It never struck me as credible that this was a disgruntled employee. I mean, why would you ruin your life's work like this if you've put all this time and effort into a major AAA game?
Not to mention, I mean, I feel like you could eventually find out who it is that way.
Well, I mean, if he got laid off, and that's the reason to do it, I guess. But I mean, it never struck me as one guy either, because those videos had at least 2 different languages going on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I doubt one guy would have access to the English and I think the Spanish version of the game. I mean, it was probably like some dubbing house or something like that.
Yeah.
That actually is not a bad theory.
Because there's like one clip of like Ellie Ashley Johnson speaking, and there's like another clip of like Spanish Ashley Johnson speaking, or some actress, dubbing over her voice or something. So it's like, all right.
Interesting. Well, it's just such a huge bummer for anyone involved in that game. And it vexes me because, now there's just more of a risk of encountering spoilers about the game before it comes out. So it's just one more thing I need to mute and avoid.
Make it what happens.
It's definitely not fun. I know Randy he didn't even know what was going on. I was like, hey, you might want to go mute.
Yeah, I joked with him about that last night.
What did he say?
Well, I mentioned I saw it, and then we were talking. He was like, "I'm off Twitter until the game comes out." I was like, I could just tell you, and then he was like, "If you do, I'll block you." So
Yeah. Well, you're the one person who deliberately spoils himself on games, so
yep.
I'm trying for it not to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if I know the game's coming and I gotta play it, I don't mind some of it, but yeah, I don't need to spoil myself months ahead.
And the more I know I'm going to play the game, the less I want to know. If I'm already determined that I'm going to play it definitely, then why would I want to know anything about it up front?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
There's not a buying decision.
Yeah, especially when you're deciding to spend $60 on that game. It's like, man, I mean, I've seen some of the vitriol online about, oh, well, now I don't have to spend $60. Great. Thanks for saving me the money. Or I didn't like
So
this,
dumb.
or I didn't like that, and I'm just like, okay.
I just hope they don't end up changing the story as a way of addressing the leak.
I
That
don't
has
think
always
they
made things
will.
worse.
I think Neil Druckmann also said, like, watch out, there's people just spreading rumors about what is in the story and what's not, and all that, and yeah, I see it every day as someone that has to be on Twitter, and it's just like, it's stupid. It's the people getting mad about, oh, well, now people getting upset about, the same crowd getting upset about the fact that there's a female Ivor in Assassin's Creed, it's like, really, folks?
What?
It's an option. Like, you don't have to...
Are these the same people who complained that the feminazis made Tifa less sexy?
Yeah,
Probably.
it's the same people that are mad that, Ellie's lesbian and all that stuff. I mean, it's just like, it's everybody. All the same people get mad about everything that has to do with something involving,
and somehow it's all Brie Larson's fault.
Yeah, it's all Brie Larson's fault. So, but yeah, hey, well, I don't think this is not going to have any ramification on the game sales or whatever. I just love the people that get upset about this and say, "Oh my God, all this stuff is going to have ramification on the game sales." And the game comes out, sells all kinds of amounts of money, and they are proven completely wrong. So,
well, but you'll never be able to compare because you can't look into an alternate universe where the information did not leak. So it may sell fine, but you never know. It might have sold even better.
I just don't think the casual people that are excited for this game that aren't on gaming Twitter all the time, even know this happened. So, well, also something I should have mentioned when we were talking about delays, Wonderful 101's physical version has been delayed. I know you're upset,
Yes. The question is more, so they've promised Steam copies for everybody. I'm
if
hoping
you're getting a physical copy, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really, I guess it'll be nice to have the Steam copy, but I'm trying to get the game on PS4, I guess. Well, I think the Switch version, I need to look into which version but the point is,
yeah, go on.
No. But ultimately,
I was going to say, ultimately, if I just give your Steam copy to me, because you don't play PC games.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've got my email right here. Physical and digital editions. This is codes for digital versions of Wonderful 101 Remastered will go out to backers who pledge to corresponding tiers starting on May 7th. Due to the number of codes, it'll take some time for all backers to receive them. Blah, 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 blah. In one of the earlier Kickstarter announcements, they specifically mentioned Steam.
Yeah.
So my question is, am I going to get a Steam code or am I going to get a PS4 or Switch code?
I think you're getting a Steam code.
Yeah. My other question is, will I get a code for the digital files of the soundtrack? Or is that something? Because it's supposed to come on like a USB stick, I think.
No, I assume that's probably still delayed, or I doubt that. I mean, they could do it, but
I got the vinyl. Not the vinyl. There's like a big CD box set here.
Yeah. Well,
bummer.
Sorry, Jens.
It's okay. Well, I'll just hold off on playing the game. I don't think I'll play the game on Steam. My computer will barely be able to run it. My computer is like a decade old now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my old computer is almost getting to that point. That's how I feel. Reggie Fils-Aimé is going to have his own gaming podcast. There's another person that it's only gonna be a 7-episode podcast. So Harold Goldberg was actually one of the founders of the New York Video Games Critics Circle. He does some really good work. I think he just did something for Final Fantasy VII, or I don't know what. I just saw the tweet about it like today. I forgot now. But yeah, he's gonna be talking to Reggie, and so it should be a very interesting podcast. What he divulges? Does he talk about any secrets from Nintendo or any of his time there and all that?
This is where he says there's been a Mother 3 official translation for the past 20 years, but they just don't want to put it out.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be teasing that. Oh, also supposedly Date is the E3 Nintendo Direct, which people all of a sudden decided that was the most important thing in the world and had a heart attack and went crazy about. Like, people. There are other things going on in the world, and the fact that the Nintendo Direct got delayed, stop it. Just stop it.
They were going to announce all the new Smash Brothers characters.
Yeah, all in one Direct, too. That's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, look, I get it. Everybody's excited for that one. That's where a lot of the big stuff gets announced and everything. But there's been some E3 Nintendo Directs that have not been as memorable. So I wouldn't totally, get all hyped and then maybe not. But I get it because past Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive, which comes out at the end of this month, we don't really know what's coming. So I get it. People were hyped.
I actually don't think that Xenoblade game is going to come out, or it'll be delayed.
No, it'll come.
Why?
That was the only thing at that Direct that had a definitive release date.
I mean, I think it'll digitally show up, but I don't think physically will. Or if it does physically, it'll be so hard to find that like regular people won't even be able to see it at all.
I mean, will it? We're talking about another almost month for these regulations to relax and everything else. I mean,
have you gone into a gaming store lately, or like a store that sells games? It is barren on the shelves.
Well, yeah. I mean, are you talking about going in a GameStop, or are you talking about going in a?
I'm talking about like going to like a Walmart that sells games.
All right, but that's probably because they're not restocking anything.
I mean, yeah, it's going to take, it's going to take weeks or months for stock to get back up to speed. Probably months, honestly. And then what's the point of selling Xenoblade if you can't find Switches in stock?
But you're not just buying Xenoblade because you're going to buy a Switch. You're buying Xenoblade because you already own a Switch and you want to have the game. I mean, are we really saying the Xenoblade Definitive Edition is going to sell Switches now? I don't know. They're not Animal Crossing. I mean, it could, but like, I don't think we're talking about this. The reason why Animal Crossing got its own Switch and everything was because Nintendo was banking on Animal Crossing is going to sell Switches. Xenoblade is just Monolith Soft is their studio. It's their big game. It's another Wii U port, and the second one sold over 1 million copies and did well. I mean, so we're getting the first one really well remade, which I appreciate because it looks a hell of a lot better and it looks awesome and I'm excited to play it. But I do think I think it's gone gold by this point and they're just going to go ahead and put it out. I mean, they're not, I just don't think Nintendo is banking on, what the hell? Nintendo's banking on that game to be it has to sell this many copies by the beginning of June.
Right, and presumably it's going to have legs.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention, like, JRPG fans, they are some of the most loyal people about buying games that they really want. So, like, people made that whole joke about Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but a lot of that was because it was under shipped. About its first week, the original version sold more or whatever. Like, that's because that Nintendo didn't expect for that game to sell that much, so they didn't ship that many copies. But, also Nintendo has increasingly said that their digital sales are getting bigger and bigger all the time. So, I don't know. We'll see. This is the first game that's really being affected on Nintendo's end by the pandemic because Animal Crossing was right before it got crazy. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like if it was gonna be delayed, they would have announced something by now.
Yeah, plus a lot of people probably also going to buy it digitally. I'm sure they're counting on that.
I mean, that's kind of my point, is I think it'll sell way more digitally than physically. So
well, that's what I'm saying though. Like, I don't think
That's
it's
fine.
like Nintendo doesn't have these deals with these retail companies like they do, like Sony has for Last of Us, that they needed the retail copies to come, or you were going to have backlash. I mean, it's like, like we never heard any. The only reason they're delaying Ghost of Tsushima is because they don't want it to come out a week after Last of Us. Because we never heard that about, oh, we got to delay Ghost because we don't want it to come out with the problem about only being digital, or whatever. So I just don't think Nintendo. If we were talking about a Mario or a Zelda, I would agree. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Maybe Mark winds up being right by the time we get to the end of May. Who knows? We still have to hope that we don't see resurgences in cases after people start reopening up more things.
Yeah, that's going to be a big determinant in what happens with a lot of this late year stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That will be the biggest determinant. And especially because it seems like it has definitely affected when we're getting Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because for the longest time, Assassin's Creed games have come out either at the end of October or towards sometime in October, basically. And now this is coming out holiday 2020. I would have totally agreed with Mark that this was a disaster of a reveal if they had only shown basically the art director drawing the cover art.
The 8-hour sketch.
Yeah, that was something else. I stopped watching after like the first 10 minutes. I was like, yep, this is cool if you're an art person. This is not cool if you're waiting for something to get revealed. And then they showed the trailer, which Mark then revealed to me that apparently he does not like game reveals because of them being CG trailers, I guess.
Yeah.
Was this a CG trailer?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like super. I mean, it felt like there was some of that in the engine, but I think it was more trying to show off, I guess, what.
I will fully
Series
admit
X
I know
could be?
nothing. I know nothing about this. I did not see this reveal at all. So I'm really curious. What was so ridiculous about it? They spent 6 minutes on an art director.
No.
Okay, that was different.
The first day they spent 8 hours. The director was like sketching the box art or some vista or something.
Yeah.
And the next day they showed like I think a 4 or 6 minute trailer, like just CGI. It looked like the intro to the game almost. But
I mean,
cares?
it's probably not. But
well, I mean, it's just you can do anything in CGI. I want to see what the actual game looks like to play.
okay, to be fair, we found out pretty quickly after that's the reason why it was held off was for the Xbox event, the Xbox third-party event, which is a week from now. That's when we're going to get gameplay for that.
Why not wait a week to show the trailer or to have that stupid art stream?
Okay, the art stream, I completely agree. That was not great at all. But the trailer was great. I mean, like, you got.
I don't know. There are plenty of people streaming themselves live painting or live drawing all the time. It's a genre of stream that some people like. I don't see why that's necessarily a bad thing. Obviously not for announcing a game, but if they just wanted to do an art stream as kind of part of a tie-in promotion, why not?
Well, it's when Twitter is like, oh, they're revealing the new Assassin's Creed. Like, that was a trending topic, and you click on it, and it's just some dude at a sketch table. And it's like, what?
Okay, I guess they should have foreseen that people would react that way. But, in principle, that's not a bad idea.
Okay, so let's get into what was actually shown in the cuts, the 4-minute CG trailer that Mark did not enjoy because it was CG.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point, we're not getting duped by what's being shown. I mean, graphics are improving leaps of, even more now with the Series X and PS5. I don't think that's the whole point of this. It's to kind of show you a cool way of what to expect in this game. So the main character, this is Assassin's Creed Vikings. It's now called Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It was rumored for a long time that it was basically about Vikings. And it's very much feels like the TV show that you may or may not have watched on History Channel or just the Viking lore in general. I love the fact that you had to have Cory Barlog respond to the idiots on Twitter that felt like they had to go and tell Ubisoft they were ripping off God of War.
Well, like the main pose of that guy on the box art looks like Kratos.
I don't care. It's stupid. Like, there has been Viking games and Viking media long before God of War decided to change its.
Okay, aside from God of War and Lost Vikings, when has there been a popular Viking game?
I'm not talking about game. I was talking about media. Like, if you're going to say anything, God of War stole from the Vikings History Channel show. I mean, let's be honest here.
Or they're just all drawing from the same general pool of fantasy aesthetics or
Norse
Greek
mythology
or Norse mythology. Yes, Greek, Roman, all the God of War. I guess they ran through the Greek gods.
Yeah,
and then right. But yeah, so I mean that stuff's all public domain. I mean, you're telling me it's a muscular guy holding an axe on the cover.
Yeah, no. Marvel owns Storm Loki.
Okay, yeah, right.
Well,
that's to me all up for grabs. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, like, let's looking at it. What I meant was, so this is much more like the Vikings of that show because you don't have the axe going back into the Ivor's hands like you do with Kratos. You throw it and that's it. Very much like the Viking show.
So you're saying it's legally distinct?
What are you saying?
So you're saying it's legally distinct?
Yes, legally distinct. Ivor is either going to be, it can be either a man or a woman. It doesn't seem like it's nothing like the two different ones you saw in Odyssey where you had Cassandra and I don't even know who the other guys. Alexei. It seems like it's just, you're going to have a lot more creative freedom on the customization part. Like there's going to be customized gear, a lot more, customizing of how they look. Customizing is the whole point of this game, seems like, because you're going to have a whole, camp and everything that you can customize. And based on how you customize it also, can determine things in the game as well. So, because depending on, what kind of raids you go on or side quests you go on, presumably will depend on the loot that you get back. And I guess who decides to attack your town or your whatever your settlement. So that's cool. It does give me, cause it's made by the same team that made Black Flag. So it gave me a lot of Black Flag vibes watching this. Also, you have the Norse, the Viking ships, which are going to play a big role in this as well. You're going to be doing raids getting to the different parts of 9th century England with those ships. So, which look great.
I thought it was 12th century, but I might be wrong. Whatever.
I'm reading 9th century here.
Okay.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe I saw like an earlier copy or something.
So, basically, like at the beginning, it's showing you, the King of England at that point is narrating that, the Vikings are taking over lands that they will not defend and they will not care about, and we're gonna basically go at them with war. And yeah, basically you're the Vikings and you're going against the, Wessex and all the other, those early century, English towns you're basically trying to take over. And yeah, I mean, it seems pretty awesome. It's going to be interesting what they reveal with, the gameplay next week. But aside from the fact that it was CG that you didn't like, Mark, but is there something that was revealed either in print or in the trailer that you were like, oh, and seems interesting. I'm into that.
No.
No? Why not?
Because it's going to follow the same template as the last few games. Like, I don't care about customization. Like, I honestly don't care what my character looks like in general in game, period. I want the gear to be useful. I care more about it being effective than it looking cool. And as far as like the, doing certain side missions or doing certain raids or something, people in those games, like me, do everything. That ultimately doesn't matter. It's not like you're going to close one of the avenues off. Like those games, nothing ever gets closed off.
Fair enough. Yeah,
I mean, the story might be good, but I mean, that's probably why I will play it, but I doubt the gameplay will be radically different.
Yeah, I haven't played the last iteration of what Assassin's Creed is, so I don't know. But if it's the Black Flag team, Black Flag is kind of one of the last ones that I liked and played. So,
I mean,
maybe?
Black Flag, honestly, was like the start of those games getting too big.
That's true. But
Odyssey,
if they further moved away from the stealth stuff in Black Flag, which I thought was the worst stuff in Black Flag, then maybe this could be a cool Assassin's Creed game. I always like the sea battles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny how there's only like 2 sea battles in I think Odyssey.
The thought of going up against all those historical figures is neat, as per usual with Assassin's Creed. But this is just a good era.
Yeah,
I kind of think
who's going to be your Leonardo da Vinci or your Q?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was just kind of going to make the point that this is kind of what Kingdom Hearts is to Disney characters. Assassin's Creed to historical figures.
Oh, Syndicate got really crazy about that. It's really funny.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like their biggest things seem to be the things Marc doesn't like with this is like a lot of customization of your settlement, of your gear, of your character, of your whether it's male or female.
I mean, it's basically they turned it into Far Cry, and it's like you already have Far Cry. Like you don't need to turn Assassin's Creed used to be its own separate thing.
I'm not crazy about maintaining a settlement either. It's giving me flashbacks to Fallout 4, where it's throwing all that build your town back up stuff at you in the
so
beginning.
terrible in that game.
Of course, it turns out to be totally optional, but the first impression is like, what is this?
Here's the reason I don't like customization is look at Ezio from AC2. I mean, he changed outfits. He had alternate outfits, but he had a kind of a main outfit, like the white hooded thing. If you just have some dude who you can slap a bunch of parts on, he has no agency or character within the story.
I like a good creative character, and you can do it so that they have personality and a voice. It's not like that's impossible to do. I mean, I don't know how there's people who seem to love Assassin's Creed Odyssey exactly for that.
Well, yeah, because they like it because the female character was written really well, but the male character sucked ass.
Oh, so the female character. It's what to do with Shepard as well.
Well, no, because in Odyssey, there was a big story difference between the two characters. It wasn't like Mass Effect.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this is more exactly like that, like Mass Effect. It feels like you're gonna have your male Ivor and your female Ivor, and then you just pick which gender. Doesn't feel like it's a...
If they do a multiplayer co-op expansion or version, I want it to be called Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
That's the only way.
Also, isn't Watch Dogs Legion supposed to be out?
No, they delayed that thing.
Well, I know, but
to either later in 2020 or I guess now it could even be 2021.
Who cares?
Yeah, Ubisoft basically. Oh, you know why they haven't announced anything? Because Ubisoft basically said that it depends on whether the next gen consoles come out. They'll just delay everything.
Yeah,
it's a good philosophy.
Ubisoft releases whenever they want.
Yeah, I think the only thing, because this is cross-gen. I mean, the other game's also cross-gen, but I feel like they think that as long as we have an Assassin's Creed game, the other stuff, we don't really need to have any kind of window.
They said that, but Watch Dogs was supposed to be the counterpoint to Assassin's Creed. They were supposed to release basically on alternating year schedules, but they fucked it all up. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think also they're still, as far as we know, they haven't announced any kind of delay to their digital event, so they may also be kind of waiting to have their own event to reveal those kinds of things, Last thing I think on this that we haven't discussed is in the trailer, there's a notion of the assassin being there, or what looks like the assassin, and then Ivor kind of sees it and says, oh, Odin's here, we're gonna do awesome. And that's all of a sudden when he starts doing badly. And then apparently Ivor has a bird animal with him as well for this. But
yeah, I mean,
so yeah,
go ahead. You were mocked, or you made a comment about you throw the axe and it doesn't come back to you, unlike the God of War games. It's Odyssey and Origins. You basically gain superpowers in those games. So I wouldn't put it past him at a certain point. You get some magnetic glove, and it's you can throw the axe and activate your glove, and it comes back to you, or some bullshit like that. like in like Odyssey, you can like literally like cloak yourself, just turn invisible, and it's like what? Like,
well, that would not be historically accurate. Don't these games strive for historical accuracy outside of all the crazy alien forerunners stuff?
Things, yeah, but
Egyptians
not all.
have a personal cloaking device, or the Greeks, I should say. Like, I don't think so. Like,
that's real, isn't it?
Yeah, but
only certain Greeks.
Well, the Egyptians were touched by the ancient aliens. We know this.
They also have a Stargate underneath the temple.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
So, like, these games, like, I mean, even the earlier games, they weren't, like, completely realistic, but they at least kind of tried to play in reality. But the last two games, you gain, like, superpowers. And this is crazy. Like,
I mean, if you're going to get into, like, being an RPG and have a gear that levels up and like, you gain powers and stuff like that, eventually it's kind of going to go into that realm. I mean, you're going to run out of crap to...
I mean, I think in Odyssey, you're, like, literally fighting, like, a legendary boar that was, like, farting clouds around it that could poison you.
Well, it's like, that's the old kind of contrived thing of, or the argument between, is this,
historical or fantasy?
Well, who's the superhero character? Oh, that's not a superhero. That's just a level 99.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have that suspension of disbelief, I think, once you just become basically superhuman in the game. You just kind of accept it and enjoy the power fantasy. Of course, some games will never let you get to that point, but...
Oh, yeah, and also...
It's kind of neat that... Yeah.
I was going to say, also in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you could teleport around, like, Noctis from Final Fantasy XV.
Huh.
By throwing your spear.
Do you have to, like, throw your weapons away for them to recharge?
No, they recharge just by you killing people.
Okay, well, that's better than Final Fantasy 15 then.
Oh, I mean, we also have seen, like, Ubisoft take that, like... What they really care about is having the world sort of be authentic, and then whatever you do in the game necessarily isn't always that way, because they have their own educational part that they released later that is more authentic in that way, so...
Yeah, but that's just like a guided tour of like, oh, this this Viking landmark is, we modeled it how it would have looked back in the day.
I mean, that's still cool, though. I mean, they don't necessarily have to do all that, and it's nice that they do. I did appreciate that part at the end where the big hulking knight is coming in. It looks like he's about to just whoop Ivor, and then at the last minute, the assassin blade or the hidden blade, like he uses it and kills him. So that's neat. They did allude to, like I said, with the assassin, is that Norse mythology is going to play a role, but they don't want to discuss about how much it's going to play a role in this, because I guess that's going to be revealed later.
No, they did the same thing with the Odyssey. Like, he fought, like, certain Greek monsters, like the Medusa or, like a centaur or something like that.
Yeah.
Those games got weird.
And there's obviously 3 different versions, like we see with most games now. The base game, the season pass, and the ultimate pack. Each one, includes more things than the other. There's also a collector's edition that includes a Ivor and her longship 30-centimeter replica, a collector's case, a steel book, a Viking statuette of Ivor with his raven and Dane axe, parts of the soundtrack, and lithographs.
I like your specificity there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's in there. It says so.
Parts.
So there you go. There's what we know about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and we're gonna rank our best Assassin's Creed games at the end of the show. So there's more Assassin's Creed tie-in if you're an Assassin's Creed person. Like, I've learned to like a bit more of Assassin's Creed doing these shows with Marc, because I was never I like the historical aspect of Assassin's Creed, but it wasn't always my jam. I was much more a Prince of Persia person. So, but yeah.
But after the first Prince of Persia, that series fell away.
Oh yeah, it became a much different game. It became much more actiony.
I've only played the 2008 reboot one.
Yeah, that was good.
It was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
But like the 2003, I think Prince of Persia was really good, and then the second one, it was like they turned it into like death metal or like new metal, and it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Was that like 2 swords or something like that?
Yeah, and the third, they tried to split the difference, but like having him like transform between forms, and it's like, nope, you already lost me. Sorry.
Yeah, it went like totally south by then. And Gearbox, is this the same Gearbox?
Yeah.
Gearbox is working on a TV show based on the tactical shooter series Brothers in Arms, with Scott Rosenbaum on board as the showrunner, executive producer.
I don't buy it.
No,
not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Like, for one thing, like Brothers in Arms doesn't have fans, but it doesn't have like a strong enough identity. And the last Brothers in Arms game was like 15 years ago, I think, or at least 10.
I guess they're trying to capitalize on all the war movie stuff that's come out recently. So.
I guess it's just so similar to Band of Brothers in concept and aesthetic, or potentially at least, that, even though it's different stories, I mean, it could be good. It could be another Band of Brothers, if it ever happens, which it won't.
Yeah, I guess the last Brothers in Arms game was 2014.
If this were based on Furious 5, then I might be more interested. But they haven't even gotten Furious 5 out. Or was it? That was the title, right? That was their Inglourious Bastards inspired Brothers in Arms
4.
Game. Furious 4. Sorry, one too many.
And that got canceled, yeah.
I'm looking at Scott Rosenbaum, the producer of this show. Scott Rosenbaum is also known for Chuck, Queen of the South, The Shield, and V.
I've heard of 2 of those.
Down with 3 of those shows, so.
Yeah. Which 3? You'll just have to guess. But, it's a good pedigree.
I mean, sure, until you realize that Randy Pitchford is going to be involved somehow. So
that's the thing that makes me think it's just bullshit. But, this producer is a legitimate producer.
I mean, they've mentioned that, I think they said at least at one point they were going to try to do a Borderlands movie. And it's like, yeah, that really happened.
Right, but we also were pretty close to a BioShock movie by Gore Verbinski if you could only have gotten the money for it. So there's like a lot of things that are a real project that get close to being made.
Right. I'm so excited for that Halo TV show, actually.
Is that still happening?
Yeah, I mean, actually, they've been filming it. Like, it's...
Huh.
And the guy they got to be Matt Reeves is really good, I think, so...
Yeah, so I'm excited for that, too.
Did you say Matt Reeves?
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought
I said the guy they got to be Master Chief.
Oh, Master Chief. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the director of the Batman.
No.
Oh, man. Okay, well...
The guy playing Master Chief is Pablo Schreiber.
Huh. The name rings a bell.
I think he's like Lee Schreiber's half-brother, and he was in The Wire and other stuff. Probably haven't seen.
Yeah. Well, also since we're on the movie, since we're on the, Spider-Man apparently has a, official universe, Spider-Man universe of characters. Really? We couldn't think of anything else?
I have the Spiderweb of characters.
Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters is what it's called.
Oh, they've got to formalize what's theirs.
I guess.
How it's all connected. Especially now with this multiverse Doctor Strange coming that Sam Raimi is directing.
Yeah.
I could see them doing things that could set up a live-action type Spider-Verse movie. So who knows if they're going that direction. But you remember there being rumors about, like, Tobey Maguire might come back as alternate Spider-Man from Sam Raimi universe.
Kind of like oh god, what's the animated one that was
Spider-Verse?
Awesome?
Spider-Verse, yes.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly like that. Well, to be fair, I've been having brain farts all night as well.
I mean, that'd be funny.
Yeah, so I can understand why they might want to. I guess it is kind of lame, I suppose. Why do you need this as a piece of corporate PR?
Because they have to keep Spider-Man going, or else they lose the license.
Well, I mean, obviously they are obligated to make Spider-Man stuff all the time, but that is the kind of curse that is the kind of thing that you want to be cursed with.
I know you're going to be buying front and center day one the Morbius ticket starring Jared Leto.
Yeah, so exactly. This is how would the average person know that Morbius ties into the greater Marvel universe now, if not for some sort of legend or summary document.
Yep.
I'll let you know.
Or that Carnage movie with Woody Harrelson.
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, they already named it too. It's like I forget. It's like Enter the Carnage, or Let There Be Carnage. There you go.
Yeah, Let There Be Carnage. Yeah.
That's not a terrible title.
No, yeah, there's been worse. Really quick, I guess let's throw it at. What do you think of the Regal and AMC refusing to play Universal because they
will instantly fold once movie theaters back open.
Oh, I don't know. Universal is not such a huge part of the global box office. They
Fast
usually
and
have
Furious and
yeah, I was gonna say
Jurassic Park and
okay. I'm not saying they don't have their big franchises.
I mean, Disney's doing this too. Are you going to tell them that you're not going to show their movies? I mean,
that's true. It is a little weird, though. I guess Disney hasn't shown. Well, I guess they did in the way. Onward was kind of a first release movie.
Well, that Artemis Fowl movie is hitting Disney Plus. It's not going to the theaters anymore.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Disney did say like stuff that's like smaller. They're gonna just put it straight on Disney Plus now.
They're not going to show the Fast and Furious 9 on video on demand, but smaller movies like Scoob or crap like that, or that Trolls movie. Yeah, who cares?
I was excited. I was kind of wanting to see Scoob, but that's just me. Scooby-Doo version.
After the 9th version of Scooby-Doo, I've kind of lost interest.
Yeah, if it doesn't have Linda Cardellini, Marc doesn't care.
Yep. There's more things in life.
Yeah, but I wonder if things like that Hercules movie that's now, I guess, the next live-action Disney movie, do we get some of those just go straight to, Lady and the Tramp?
Because that's not been made yet.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, is how much they consider smaller movie that, some of these live-action things that maybe don't have a huge following.
I think there's a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Mulan's going to play in theaters.
Well, Mulan will. I'd say.
Yeah, and I don't think, like Marc said, it's going to be on hold.
Yeah.
So they're going to pick this back up once normalcy has been somewhat restored. I think this is just a temporary thing with stuff that was already in production or almost ready for release.
I mean, I get it. They're scared of how Trolls made a bunch of money, and they're scared that other companies will decide to just go straight to digital as well and just forego the theater or whatever. But it's I don't think that's going to happen. And
I really view it as analogous to the car situation, buying a Tesla. It is much better to just buy a Tesla online or just go into, a store and say, hey, I just want to buy this, instead of dealing with some fucking car dealership. If I could just watch new movies at home, I would do it. I'm not married to the theater going process.
Yeah, but obviously the movie theaters that need you to go to the movie theater.
But
want you to
they need me. I don't need them. And if they are married, that's the same reason CDs barely exist anymore, because people moving onto iTunes or Spotify,
yeah, sure.
Or new technology like records.
Marc, you're on thin ice. CDs are still the best medium for music distribution.
How do you feel, Jens, as a movie person? Or I guess older movie person.
I am severely alienated by the movie-going experience, at least in this state. People are very rude. People will talk or hoot and holler during a movie. They will use their phones. It is supremely irritating to me, and I have I was already barely going to the movies anymore, except for really important big releases like Dolittle or Cats.
Yeah.
So, the funny thing is that I've seen almost, I haven't seen the Ben Affleck sad sports movie yet, because I don't really care about sad sports. But I've seen practically, other than that one, I've seen all the new release movies that went to demand, and I would have never seen them first run if it wasn't for the fact that they were available this way. I wouldn't have seen The Invisible Man or Trolls or Emma or any of those movies. Call of the Wild. I wouldn't have seen Call of the Wild in the movie theater, but if you watch it at home, it's
it's funny.
Good.
It's the theaters up here are perfectly fine. Most people are respectful. They might hear a phone go off very occasionally, but I mean that's fine. But I just don't like going to theater in general. It doesn't really matter to me if it's comfortable or not.
I used to love going back in the the days when.
Well, let's be honest, movie theaters are bloatedly expensive.
Well, one I mean pretty cheap, but
okay, that's you. Most people, you have to pay anywhere from 10 to more. And if you buy anything, which I at least have to buy a drink, I can't sit there for 2-3 hours without drinking something. Like, so, and if you go with anybody else, like, you know, I go with a girlfriend or whatever, it's even more expensive. Or go with, you know, my daughter, which I would have definitely seen Trolls in the theater had it gone to the theater. But it's like, you know, it's just one of these where I don't think that that's bad, what Disney's doing, what Universal's doing. If NBC's Peacock thing takes off, would they consider, you know, doing something like that? Like, you know, I get it that AMC is close to bankruptcy and they're also aren't they run by like a Chinese conglomerate as well? Like, so they probably see it as an attack on their business, and I get it, but I think it's also short-sighted and stupid. I think you need to, if everybody else is having to deal with the digital times, movie theaters have to deal with it too. It's just the way of the world is.
Yep.
So before we get into the, Jens has gotten much farther about Final Fantasy. I kind of talked some about having finished it the other day.
Yeah, I finished it. It's over.
Oh, you finished it? Okay. So.
Yep.
Let me get your thoughts here in a second. So there was some news, bits involving Final Fantasy this week, mainly about due to more people have gotten to the ending, and the Ultimania book released. And so now talk started about, well, what's Remake Part 2 gonna be like? Does the ending mean that they're just gonna do whatever the heck they want? Or does it mean that people are making too much about that? And both Nomura and Gatase have come out to say that we're not drastically changing the story and making it into something completely different than the original. Even though it's a remake, please assume that FF7 will still be FF7 as usual.
Yeah, I fully expect it to just continue the way that it did in the first Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is that the Whisper stuff is just kind of shoehorned into key moments of Final Fantasy where you need something logistically to happen a certain way that doesn't make as much sense when it has left the 2D space of the original game. How do we solve this? Oh, we'll have the Whispers show up and block them from passing here or interfering in this thing that's happening in this cutscene. So I was actually not a huge fan of that stuff. The finale is very interesting. I think we should save that for once Marc finishes the game and
Marc
we do our spoiler.
Care.
All right, then we need to do our spoiler cast.
Yes, we do. We're gonna have Randy on as well for that. Yeah,
we definitely need Randy. I want Randy. Randy's a big defender of the Whispers thing, and he apparently has a detailed theory. He has a fully worked out. Here's exactly what everything means, and what does it foretell for the future. I personally was a little bit confused. I wasn't sure what it meant exactly, but apparently it ties into the greater.
Like Sephiroth is. You know, there's something going on with Sephiroth. Like, I don't think that's.
I mean, yeah. Okay, think this.
Did Sephiroth find Chrono's time chip from Chrono Trigger and he's not fucking with the timeline?
Man, I definitely feel like there's something wrong. That is a complete foreshadow of the ending. That is a if you don't think that there's multiple timelines in this thing now,
are we saying?
Okay. Also, I hope that when Sephiroth stabs Aerith in the temple, that Cloud or someone just casts a Phoenix down on her and picks her back up again.
Well, this is always a thing with these kinds of games. Why don't they use a Phoenix down in the cutscenes? Why do you only ever die when you get shot in a cutscene in Yakuza? Yep. You know, these are just things that we accept.
Yeah, I mean,
Marc, you were complaining to me about the fact that Cloud does some sweet ass shit in the cutscenes for this, and it reminded me. I remember somebody, I think it was on Giant Bomb, even complaining about the fact that Raiden was way more energetic and actiony and active in the cutscenes than anything that you could actually play.
Yep.
Whenever it went to cutscene mode, it's now he's a super agile ninja.
I mean, he's still pretty awesome in the game. That's always been the case, though.
Oh, Cloud is great. I mean, this is a really great version of Cloud. I loved everything about the characters all the way through. I thought it was very emotional. I came close to tears a few times.
I agree.
Yep. It was a grand epic. It was basically everything that I would ever want from a Final Fantasy remake. I mean, as good as you could possibly make it, honestly. But the stuff the stuff that they tacked on to me, I had a similar feeling about it as I had about in The Two Towers, where basically Peter Jackson slightly extends the story by having him go back to Osgiliath.
Yeah.
And it's completely pointless and doesn't. And if you actually look at like the Middle Earth map that are in the old Tolkien books, you look at that and you're like, this is a crazy detour that they're taking just so they can go to Osgiliath. It makes no sense geographically, but it has to exist in order to give that movie an ending. So, you know, he had to have some kind of a climactic decision there.
Right.
So that's what this feels like to me, where, you know, it's got to tell you that, okay, you're still getting what you're expecting, but with a twist that is going to get you hooked for those who already know the story or who are going to play regular Final Fantasy VII now.
That's what I definitely felt like at the end of this was they really want you to go play Final Fantasy VII, the original, just to see if any of that stuff actually happened or just to, you know, so you can get a refresher so when the part 2 comes out, you kind of already know. And then, yeah, and I don't think that's bad, right? Like, you know, that exists and they put it out on everything so you can buy it on whatever system you want. But, yeah, I definitely feel like they are setting up some things that definitely are going to wind up not being as crazy as we think. And then some things that are going to be, how do you explain this? How do you explain this? I do think if you're going to put Sephiroth and, you know, this part of the story, which he wasn't until you get to the end where that's the first, sorry, spoilers, people haven't played Final Fantasy VII. It's a freaking 23-year-old game at this point. And it's not really a spoiler. Sephiroth doesn't really show up until you get to the Shinra building. You don't know who Sephiroth is at all. He's not mentioned until you get there. That's the first time he shows up.
Yeah, he wasn't your mentor when you were a child soldier.
Right. So, I mean, well, he kind of was, except you don't find that out till later. So, like.
Oh, sorry. I will edit this out.
Well, no, you find out, I mean, I'm guessing that's where the story's gonna start for part 2, is they're gonna start in that scene where they go to Nibelheim, which gets alluded to in parts of the story, right? Where Tifa's wearing the cowboy outfit. So, like, you know, I think definitely, they should have explained a little bit about who Sephiroth is for people who don't know who he is or who have not played the game at all, the original game. So, I mean, I get it. They want you to go play the original game, but some people are not going to do that because unless you play with the PC mods, which that's not most people, you're not going to get it to look better than the original 7 does. And that's going to be a deterrent for a lot of people. The reason why they're playing it this way is because it doesn't look like PS1 graphics Final Fantasy VII. So, I think they could have done a little better job of explaining a little bit of who Sephiroth is. Cause that's kind of what happens, right? At the end of this end of the section where this game ends, that next scene is like, isn't it where like Cloud pulls you into a hotel and explains everything before you start going on the world map and all that stuff? Like, or well, like the first town you go to or whatever after you get on the world map. Like, so I'm not saying that they needed to add that cutscene in now or whatever, but they could have done something to explain, here's who this dude is. Or I mean,
they barely do that in the original game.
Well, it's good to have a mystery going on that, again, can keep you hooked for the next game. I mean, you don't have to explain everything. We know enough about him. We know enough about his past with Cloud and whatnot.
Right.
So, learning more about him is a hook.
I don't necessarily mind the whispers so much because, like, they just kind of either delay the inevitable or make sure what's supposed to happen happens, right? Like, that's their whole point.
Yeah, they're arbiters of fate, which, it's not a concept that I generally enjoy in fiction.
Yeah, that's where I got into the whole, like, well, Nomura definitely put its Kingdom Hearts clause in here.
Yeah. There's so many comic stories and stuff where there is just like, oh, there's an observer race that makes sure that the things that are supposed to happen the way they do. Or even Discworld did that with the Time Monks. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I'm not hugely fond of that particular trope.
Anything, are you going to try to play it on hard mode, or is that it for you? Or?
Oh, no, this is it. I might grind it out to get the characters to level 50.
Yeah.
And I might try and milk a couple more trophies out of it. but I don't think I'm going to play it on hard. I thought it was plenty challenging on medium for me, because I guess I'm a wimp now. But also, hard mode just sounds
hard.
I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like something that I don't have the time or energy for at the moment. Even if there's cool stuff about it, like that there's new attacks apparently that you don't see in the regular game. You know, some of the big bosses behave totally differently now, apparently. So that stuff's cool, and I would like to see it, but I just don't see myself making that investment. I've got to play Sakura.
Playthrough on hard.
That's true. I got to play Sakura Wars. That's where my focus is now.
Oh, you got to tell me how that is.
Yeah. The funny thing about that game is that game it's like a Persona where it takes a very long time to get to any gameplay, which isn't just walking around a school and talking to people. So.
Right, it's like a visual novel the first hour and a half, right?
Yeah, so even though I'm a couple of hours in, I've barely done any robot fighting. So I'm going to save my impressions for next time. The one thing I will say is that Koei Tanaka's music is unbelievably good and a contender for best of the year for me when we get to best video game soundtracks of the year.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be some contenders for that, and we still haven't gotten to some of the other big releases.
Yep. But I have no words on I've got a little bit on the gameplay, but just tutorial stuff. So I don't really have a good impression on it yet. It is weird to play it as an action game. I know, but we'll get to that next time.
I haven't, so Mark, go ahead and talk about, your time with, XCOM Chimera Squad.
I'm actually kind of the same way. I've only played the tutorial.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is, you can kind of breach, like you kind of select points where you can enter to do missions at, and that's about the only change I've noticed. Like, I mean, you have like different abilities, but yeah, more XCOM. It does seem a lot smaller in scope though. Like production value, like there's no like cutscenes, there's all like animated cutscenes, and I'm like, yep.
Well, definitely makes sense why it's like on sale for $10 right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
is it the same assets?
No, like it's new map. Like, well, you're playing like different soldiers. It's like a continuation of XCOM 2. Like, new maps, new, abilities, stuff like that. But I mean,
so it's just like what we used to have on
expansion of XCOM.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think we talked about it. It's like Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
Right. A $20 to $30 expansion that you can run on its own.
Yeah. Or like we were talking about last week or the last podcast, like the Wolfenstein Youngblood thing.
Yeah, Youngblood's kind of that's different enough to be its own game. It doesn't play. I mean, it still plays in certain ways like a little Wolfenstein, but the co-op mechanics and the level design are quite different.
Yeah. So,
I mean, having co-op mechanics at all.
But yeah, I mean, I'll focus more on that when I play more.
How far did you get any further in Final Fantasy VII?
I'm in like chapter 12. I think I just hit the train graveyard.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
People used to complain about the train graveyard in Final Fantasy VII. I thought this was a really spooky, really beautiful sequence.
I complained about it also because I thought, in the old game, it was very hard to differentiate what you could like move around or like what you could like interact with compared to like what was just background imagery. Like there was like one or two trains where it was like very obviously like you could push this train because it looks so much different than the other ones, but it was still kind of challenging, I thought.
Yeah, I like how they kept most of that in there, but they also added like, some few different wrinkles to it. And of course, having a party helps a lot because you're only Cloud in the original train graveyard. So
really, okay.
You haven't got? I'm sorry, I spoiled it for you.
What?
No, that's okay. Mark doesn't care about being spoiled.
Yeah.
The fact that you're not by yourself. Wait, no, you're already in the train graveyard. You said.
Yeah, you have Aerith and Tifa with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original, you just have Cloud, right?
No, I thought you at least had Aerith.
No, I thought that he gets off the train and he's by himself. And then
maybe.
And he gets to the...
It's been too long.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
it's been too long.
It's been 15 or 20 years since I played that game, so, I mean, hell, you could be right. I don't know.
I will say, I love the two bosses in the Train Graveyard for Remake. Those
are really good.
Yeah.
The bosses in general are very satisfying.
Oh my god, some of the music for that in that area is awesome. But yeah. Well, before we get off this track, one thing I forgot to mention earlier. I know Mark made the joke, he's made the joke several times about, 2024 is when we're going to get part 2, but both Nomura and Gatase are also on record saying that, well, Nomura, I think, more than Gatase, is saying that there were rumors or ideas of it's supposed to be a trilogy, very much like the first game, of having 3 discs, but that there's also talk of more like they don't really know what the heck the schedule is, but that there's also talk of perhaps if they can release it in shorter chunks, the game can come out faster, or you can have whatever the next part is faster. I mean, what is an acceptable smallish chunk, and are we talking about $20-$30 at that point, or?
I have a feeling this game is going to be like Star Citizen. Well, just never end.
That's a very... but there's actual
morbid look on it, but
it's very unfair.
What do you think, Jens? Like, what would
I don't know. I would have liked it to be a trilogy with 3 substantial games. It being broken up into smaller chunks, I don't know. Could be fine as well. I would want it to be all packaged up in a big thing at the end, though.
I think like I've always said, the narrative problem. Well, Final Fantasy VII, the original game, like the first 2 discs were the important discs. The third disc didn't have shit on it except for like the ending. Like it was pretty much like a mere copy of disc 2.
Had to fit those extra detailed character models on there and stuff.
Well, I mean, you fit I think they took out a lot of the story elements of Final Fantasy or the disc 2, but yeah, like the problem is like what do you think is the natural stopping point for like Final Fantasy VII 2? Like when Aerith dies?
That would have to be towards the end somewhere.
Why? I mean, Final Fantasy VII, like she dies pretty early on in the game.
Yeah, but clearly they've greatly expanded Aerith's role in the story.
Like it's like
I could definitely see where they sort of delay it. Where like they make you wait at least. I definitely don't think we're gonna see it in part 2. I think they definitely make it.
I could see it being the ending to part 2.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
As well.
But also, like, so much of that game after the fact is like Cloud wanting to get revenge on Sephiroth, and
sure.
So, like, doesn't that kind of decrease that story impact as well?
I mean, it's fine for Cloud to be on a revenge trip for one game in the trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's a problem.
I could see something like Golden Saucer could be its own thing.
But I mean, how much would you pay for that?
The thing is, Square will make it $30 when it really should be $20. There's no way that. I still feel like that Kingdom Hearts thing was a ripoff, and I will not buy it.
Mm-hmm.
The remind
3 hours of half of its cutscenes you've already seen, and oh wow, I got to play with Kairi finally in a part that doesn't really matter, and then what an ending.
Well, that was my joke to you when you brought this up to me on Facebook. Was wait for Final Fantasy VII Part 14, where it's the Costa del Sol expansion or something. It's like no.
Yeah, I mean, if like you're gonna include some of the those. Like, let's say, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how you could really do that unless you'd really, if you start slicing and dicing that game even more, I think people are going to be more disappointed by the fact that you're slicing and dicing that game more than just making them wait 2 or 3 years for the next installment.
Well,
which I think they're definitely going to take less time because you got to remember that they had to completely scrap whatever they were doing from 2015 to 2017.
Yeah,
so
the
that was
CyberConnect
2 years
version.
that was wasted. Yeah, when CyberConnect was doing it. And thank God, because then it would have wound up like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So, like, I'm not saying everything CyberConnect 2's ever done is bad, but I mean, look at most of the stuff they've ever done.
I can make that point.
Asura's Wrath.
One game out of 200 is not a great batting average.
But it's one of the greatest games of all time.
It's also barely a game.
No, that is absolutely wrong. Next, you'll be telling me that Rebel Assault is barely a game.
I haven't played it. Also, it's a 30-year-old Star Wars game, so...
Yeah, I mean, I guess my point is, like, I don't think they're going to take 5 years to make the next one. It's just, like, I mean, I think people are willing to wait a couple of years, but I think if we're talking about it's going to blow up, do they slice something to give people something,
Well, here's an interesting question. I mean, they just announced that Resident Evil 4 remake, a week or two ago. Which do you think comes out first? Like Resident Evil 4 remake or Final Fantasy VII 2?
The way Capcom's been putting that stuff out, I would say Resident Evil 4, or maybe in the same year again.
You can't say that because like Resident Evil 2 and 3 were supposed to be one game. So like that's like, yeah, of course Resident Evil 3 came out like only a year later because it was already pretty much done, or most of it was probably being finished. Like, who knows how long it will take them to actually make Resident Evil 4?
But we don't really know how long they've been developing that game. They just say that.
Sure, but I mean, they could say the same thing about Final Fantasy VII too. Like they've been working on that thing for the past 3 years. Who knows?
Well, they said what? I think like right after they revealed. I feel like after the E3 reveal, they said they were already working on part 2.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, they didn't take when the first game released. It's not they took a month off vacation. They're still probably chained to their desk, cranking out, the remake version of Calm.
But yeah, I don't know. I really don't want to see them go that way because that's what I was scared of. Is we'd start seeing these like small DLC releases, and then it'd be like almost impossible to start putting them all together, and you would have people start waiting until. Well, I'm just gonna wait till the whole thing comes. So, yeah. But you two have been playing. I played literally the first like 5 minutes. Well, I want to say the first 5 or 10 minutes, where you get in the truck and you just drive to the watchtower. That's pretty much all I did.
Did you get stuck in the mud within those 5 minutes?
Yes, I got stuck in the freaking mud, and I had to figure out how to do the all-wheel drive, which wasn't very clear. And finally, when I figured it out, I was like, okay, this is much easier to drive. But then even then, it's still dry. It's like way harder to, like, I mean, I get it. They want this to be sort of realistic, and it definitely feels more like you're playing a Forza game or whatever.
I was trying to ask Marc the same question the other day, and maybe you as somebody who drives a car. I do not drive, so I do not have first-hand experience. But I'm really curious. Do your cars also randomly swerve left and right as you're going down the street?
If your car is not aligned very well, or, it can, right? Like if you take your finger off the steering wheel and you don't have good alignment, it can, definitely.
Also, but me and Sean aren't driving beat up old trucks, that are on crumbly roads or mud.
I'm just absolutely appalled by the road.
I will say that like trucks are rougher to drive, but like, and yes, I have driven off road in a Jeep, which is going to deal with, say, a pickup truck, but like, it's definitely bumpy, and I will say that, like, it definitely does feel authentic to drive through that, but it's like, to drive on the once you get to the road part, and it feels like I moved the thing a little bit too much to the right, and it went way too much to the right, that's where it's like, that's a little bit too much, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to make it that difficult to drive.
Wait till you hit Alaska.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just disappointed in Michigan. I wish.
So am I.
Yeah, I wish that you guys took better care of your roads. It's absolutely appalling road conditions.
See,
everywhere, even in the city, every corner is some sort of a sinkhole.
Yeah, there was. I mean, you say that, but there was a pothole on the road I frequently travel on underneath a bridge that, like, if you hit it, it would have blown your tire. It was like that deep. I was like,
oh yeah, no, we have terrible potholes here as well.
I had a call today. I forgot where it is actually, but somebody called. I had a call I took today of somebody driving into a shopping center and their car hit a pothole and it took off. It flattened their tire and bent their rim. I was like, wow, that's terrible.
Yep.
All right, so maybe it's realistic. Marc definitely assures me that it's realistic. So yeah, it's a work simulator. You do menial.
I mean, the thing
in difficult conditions.
The thing is like most car driving isn't realistic. So I think this game, like, the fact that you're weaving all over the road, like in old, like busted ass cars, is realistic.
I mean, when you're learning to drive, it definitely feels like you're learning to drive when you first start. You have to adjust to it.
Yeah.
And I mean,
also, I think your problem, Jens, is also you're just accelerating all constantly. You never want to brake or do it.
Well, it's just such a painfully slow game that I never want to take my foot off the gas because I want to try and make it go faster.
That is the opposite way you should be playing.
The first game in this series, Mud Runner, is on Game Pass as well. If somebody wants to try it out.
Well, the first one was actually a game called Spin Tires, but like they had some like weird licensing issues, and then they made some developer made Mud Runner, and then they made Snowrunner. Like, if you want to, like, as much as you're complaining about this game, try playing Spin Tires sometime. Like, that is like way more fucked up.
Wait, have I been complaining? I'm just stating facts here.
Not even complaining.
Stating facts. I like how all the the 2 games that are from this year that they have played co-op, Jens hates them and Marc loves them.
This is a totally objective description of the game. The question is really just whether you're into that sort of thing or not. Like, Marc seems to think that it's extremely relaxing to. I think Marc should just you know the old trope when your parents used to tell you
Death Stranding.
So. Yeah.
This is the bizarre thing.
Game, only with a word story.
And Marc keeps telling me about, like, oh, Snowrunner feels so much better. Oh, it feels so tactile in a way that Death Stranding didn't. And I'm just, what are you talking about? Like, Death Stranding felt way more immediate with the way that your momentum affects you and, based on the load that you're carrying on your back.
Randomly fall down the mountain, or like the character starts leaning to the left because he's a drunken asshole.
Dude, the amount of my car randomly leaning to the left in this game, like, if I had a cent for every time it happened, the game would already have paid for itself.
Because, like, that's how mud works. You get stuck in it.
Every 10 feet.
Yeah.
No, again, as I said, if you're into this sort of thing,
and I'm not.
By all means.
That's the thing. You keep saying if you're into it. I didn't play Mud Runner. I barely played Spin Tires. Well, like, I booted that game up for like 5 minutes. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, but you like, like dirt games.
Yeah, those are racing games.
Yeah.
This isn't a racing game. I'm like, well, it's not supposed to be. I like how Jens plays it, but.
But, like, doesn't Dirt have some, like, real car physics as well? And Forza as well? And,
see, the thing you're fighting against is the terrain. Like, that's the whole point of the game, is you conquering, you spending 10 minutes trying to, inch your way up this, like, waterlogged road or something like that.
I just find it irritating. It feels like a job.
Yeah, it definitely, I was just like, oh, God, this is a slog. All right. I could go be playing
but then
once games.
Once you complete the road, or once you remove the damaged power lines, hey, that's an actual sense of accomplishment that won't get washed away with some bullshit time rain.
Well, at least Death Stranding will let you make the environment more friendly over time. That's kind of the point of that.
And you have people help you with that.
Well, I mean, Snowrunner will do that too. You just have to buy a new truck, or customize your truck to do better. Buy new tires, or buy new, a better winch, like I did.
Well, your winch does seem slightly better than mine.
My winch helped me out.
I'll get to that eventually. The winch
the thing about the winch is, like, it is tied to your engine. So if you go sideways or you roll, your engine dies, but so does the winch. Yep. So, like, I bought a battery-powered winch so I can just use it all the time, even if I roll.
The worst thing so far it can happen to you is when your car just turns on its side.
Yeah. So
because
now
you can't
in real life too. You don't want your car turning on its side.
Yeah, but here's the difference. In real life, I could theoretically climb out of my theoretical car and set it and like slam it back down.
What?
Whereas here, no.
No, I mean you could. No,
you could rock it back into position by shifting your weight and like. One mechanic I would love in Snowrunner is if the character inside your car could shift his weight around as a way of rebalancing the car when it starts to like turn to the left or right when you're on this 2 wheels. You want to counterweight your car when you're on 2 wheels.
Yeah.
Just from I'm saying this based on movie understanding. I've watched enough movies where people drive cars.
It's like that Simpsons episode that when he's driving the snowplow and he counters the weight by turning the radio dial to the opposite direction.
Yes. If this was the Mr. Plow game, that's actually kind of how...
Oh, that's one of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons, Mr. Plow.
That's how I sold it to myself when Marc asked that I play this with him.
Wait till you hit Alaska. So,
yeah.
So here are my 3 problems with it. I know Jens has 3,000. I only have like 3 big ones. The winch system, like the way you like pick whatever point you want on your car, and then pick whatever point you want in the environment, feels like it's from the PC version. Like, you want like a mouse to do that, and they kind of just match it to the control stick, but not well.
the little dots that are placed in the environment at the point where the winch is going to either originate or hook up
clamp onto. Yeah.
So
the dot gets like highlighted a little, but like there's like a little ring. But like if there's like 20 dots around you, it's like I don't know where this dot is. First of all,
Yeah.
It's very obviously meant to be a thing where you like click and hold the mouse to rotate 360 degrees, and then click on the winch points you want to use.
Yeah,
that's very obviously what it's supposed to be. But because that is not possible on a console, you just have to kind of cycle through those dots with your D-pad. It's a bit cumbersome.
Yeah, I just pressed the button and then it ran, and then I was like, oh, it did it. It like
so that's
put
like
itself on the pole. Okay, I had no idea it was over there.
Yeah, there's a pretty decent auto winch button, but still, like, sometimes you want more granular control, but it's not done well.
Funny, we just found out about the auto winch today.
Yeah.
I used it today we were playing.
The second problem me and Jens kind of ran into is, like, you will set it to, like, do a certain mission or a certain task, and sometimes the game just kind of loses track of it, or is, like, forcing you, like, it, like, goes back to, like, an earlier mission, like, that you, like, selected off from. So it's like, I want to do this one mission where I have to, like, just, like, take this trailer to this, farm. But, like, halfway through, it'll just, like, lose track of it and then go to, like, a different mission. And it's like, no, I still have this mission. Just go back to it.
So the interface is obtuse enough that I don't know if this was a case of, like, accidentally accepting another mission while you happened to be driving over, one of those objective markers. Or if it's genuinely the game just losing track of what quest line we were in.
I think it's the game losing track, because I had those issues also when I was playing like earlier today, and I wasn't selecting new missions. It's like, no, I want to do this one mission where I have to rebuild this bridge, but it kept selecting this other mission I'd selected earlier called like King of the Hill or something. But it's like, no, I will do that later. I want to rebuild this bridge first. I can actually get to this mission. Like, stop forcing me to do this one mission because I can't do it right now. Like, leave me alone. And the third thing I've run into is like, the game is a little unstable. Like I had it crash on me twice in like the first few hours I was playing it, and it's like yeesh.
But we haven't had a crash yet playing together.
Yeah, I was gonna say it hasn't done that since, but that didn't like leave me with a great feeling. Like the game also saves really often, so I didn't like lose any a ton of progress.
I do appreciate that. It does save a lot.
But
I'm sure it'll get patched over the next few months.
Yeah.
So it'll be fine.
And I would say all three of us are playing on PS4.
Right.
Yep. You should join us for a 3-for-1 session where we split the work. That's like the best thing about playing co-op is that you can split these missions up and have people go to opposite ends of the map and like, okay, you get the lumber, I get the iron.
Yeah, me and Jens did like this farm needed bricks, lumber, and I think like concrete or metal rods. So Jens got the metal rods and lumber because they were close together, and I got the bricks, and it was fun.
Yeah, and you can also be efficient that way in dealing with the navigation towers. So, like, we wanted to clear up a bunch of the map, open up those dark areas. So we each like split up. Like, okay, I'll take the towers on this side of the map. You'll take the towers on that side of the map.
You can also, you have to select it as an option, but you can also winch yourself to other players, which is really useful.
Yeah, it's extremely useful when you get stuck in. I wanted to do that earlier because Marc was really stuck, though he did overcome that situation. I watched some of Marc's gameplay earlier, and I really wanted to jump in and just like, hey, just let me come in with my truck and I'll pull you out. Which he joined me in my game that way, but I guess he was set up private.
No, it's like the game takes. I think it takes your if you have any extra trucks, you can take them into like the other player's world. But I can't it doesn't duplicate your trucks per se. So if you tried to hop into my world, it would just let you play as the two trucks that you already have.
That'd be fine. I mean, I just wanted to come get you.
Yeah.
But the game would, I don't know, if you were in the wrong mode or something.
Yeah.
Some of the getting into the online, we've only done it once now, and it was a little confusing the first time. So I don't know, maybe we'll get used to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the game also has, the tutorial is okay, but I wish it was a tad more production value.
I couldn't figure out how to invite you. But I just made a public, a private session, and you eventually just joined me of your own accord.
Yeah, I want to have Matthew McConaughey narrating to you about how to drive a truck.
Oh, that'd be something, I guess. Since I mentioned those towers, Marc, did you talk about if you did, it passed me by. I know you thought it was very amusing that this had Ubisoft style.
Yeah, there are little like radio towers or like you drive up to and you activate it and then it just plays everything around you. And I was like,
yep. And like that's the first thing once you do the first thing you do in the game is like once you go to watchtower so you can see stuff and then you can go on with the mission.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a video of a guy explaining some tips earlier, and he said like one of the things you do is when you hit a new map, explore every tower or unlock every tower first, then unlock every upgrade part, and then rebuild every bridge or like get every hazard off the road first, and then actually start playing the game.
Fun.
Yep. Indeed, it is
fun mostly.
It's just if you can't accept they're good games like this.
I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying
I find what's a game that you can relax in? Let me ask you that.
I don't know. I was finding Sakura Wars pretty relaxing for the little bit I played of it.
Yeah, but that's because you want to hump everyone.
It is a good waifu provider. I won't lie.
I think Final Fantasy is a game. That's a pretty action oriented game. You don't really relax during it unless you're doing
No, when I relax, man, I'll watch a movie.
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm not trying to do something interactive, or a game that has lengthy movie parts, like say a Yakuza game.
In Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, I guess, but Animal Crossing to me is too stressful to relax in.
I mean, that's all Snowrunner is. It's long, relaxing parts. I mean, it's like playing an interactive version of Convoy.
But the question is it relaxing to be struggling up a hill for 15 minutes being stuck in place?
Yep.
It's not relaxing to me.
I guess.
You just need more alcohol. That'll cure it.
Sure. Again, it just feels like something. Maybe you should just do it as a job. Again, to sound like your mom.
I mean, I would, but I'd start hitting cards left and right.
Mm-hmm. Right. You can't just hit the reclaim button and have your cars be sent back to the garage and repaired for free. Yeah,
I mean, as much as the terrain is very realistic in a sense. Some of the systems around the game are really weird. You can just teleport to every car in the world map that you own, or you can just teleport back to your home base.
I don't know how else they would solve that though.
Yeah,
that's a difficult problem to solve when you can't have a character that cannot leave the car.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, anything else?
You'll be getting more Snowrunner upgrades over the next weeks since we'll continue to play the Snowrunner.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I bought the special edition of that game.
Yeah, you're crazy. I just don't understand that you gave up on Death Stranding so quickly, but this game you're all about.
Because I think the mistakes you make in this game are because of your fault. The mistakes that happen in Death Stranding are not your fault. It's just a game fucking with you.
I'll admit that there's a certain level of the game fucking with you, but most of the things that do go wrong are your personal fuck-ups. I feel this is much more there are times in SnowRunner, and again, we've only played it for a couple of hours, but this already has happened several times where, I will just get completely stuck somewhere and I feel like there was no way to avoid this. There was no way to go around this or reverse it in a safe way.
I think that's why you fix the roads. Because I think a lot of that game is pretty drivable, or you can
I mean, you could say the same for Death Stranding, right? You fix the.
That's the whole.
Yeah, but Death Stranding, the stuff goes away after a certain point.
So can you properly fix the roads in?
Yeah, so that bridge I was trying to fix earlier today. There was one very short road to get up to it, and one really long road.
Mm-hmm.
The short road had a hazard of fallen power lines. So I had to clear that up, which I actually just did right before we started. So now that short road is clear, so now I can actually get up to that bridge easier and fix that on paved roads.
That sounds yeah.
I don't get stuck in the mud now, or I don't, if going on that one really long path is nope, not anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like Far Cry. It's kind of like Far Cry in that sense, I guess.
So what your friend said that basically you want to first fix the environment up all nice and then do the delivery missions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or get the watchtower, get the upgrade parts, and then fix the town, and then do the missions.
Well, you'll know what we're doing for the next few months.
Yep.
So unlike last week that had a bunch of games people were kind of waiting on, like Snowrunner and Gears Tactics.
What are you talking about, man? The game coming out next week is what everyone wants.
What is that, Mark?
Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl.
Oh, yeah. Is this like a Final Fight type side-scrolling thing?
The genre that Mark is not a big fan of?
Well, no, I mean, I just don't think that genre does well in today's world. But I guess Streets of Rage 4
is pretty great. So
yeah,
that's what I hear.
I have my suspicions though that a Jay and Silent Bob product made in 2020 is not going to do great.
Yeah.
It's called a hunch, based on Kevin Smith's past output for the past 15 years.
How involved is Kevin Smith with this, really?
I think he wrote it, and I think he did voice acting.
Okay. Well, I mean, you do want him as a voice actor, obviously.
And the company that made it might be his, or at least they have the worst name ever because they're called Bang Entertainment.
I'm just glad. How would you pull off Silent Bob without Kevin Smith voice acting? It's impossible.
He could be silent.
That's the joke.
I mean, he'll just be like doing grunting, or
Anyway, Forza Street also comes to your phone. So if you don't get Forza on a console, you can now have Forza on your phone, and it'll probably still race better than or play better driving wise than Snowrunner. And you got Arcade Spirits, which just came out today, along with Gun Crazy, and yeah, I mean, we're not talking about just the bangers here or anything, but Blood Bastards finally comes to Switch and PS4. That's actually a pretty good game. People should try out. It's still on Xbox Game Pass as well if you have not played it yet. And a game that I remember playing a long time ago on Steam, I guess has some kind of sequel or different. It feels like an Octopath Traveler type version. Celestian Tales: Realms Beyond, which is an RPG that now is like you play as 6 different characters at different times. That's cool and all. But alright, let's get into our topic. This podcast has gone a lot longer than I thought it would. Our best Assassin's Creed game. I don't know how much I'm going to participate in, but Mark, this is one of your big...
I played all the big ones, or all the console ones. I've not played any I did play Liberation, I think, when it came to console, but I didn't play on PSP.
Did you play the PS3 release of that?
No, I mean it came to PS4 and
okay.
It came to PC
it's been on
and stuff.
PS Plus, I think, once.
Yeah, it's called Liberation HD or something.
Yeah. And
it's on PS4 now. It's part of Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah.
So I played them all, except the only one I haven't played is Assassin's Creed 1.
Which, I mean, it's not the best one.
No, I did not. I mean, I tried to go back after I played AC2, and I was like, I got an hour, and I'm like, nope.
I mean, so what do you think, Mark? What would be your top 5 Assassin's Creed games?
I would say,
assuming Odyssey and Origins are not in that.
I mean, Odyssey might be. That might be number 5. It's okay. I would say my top one is probably Brotherhood.
Yeah.
I still think that had the best city of Rome, was just really interesting to explore. I think it had the best gameplay dynamics, and I thought Ezio is a good fleshing out of his character. That's number 1. Number 2 is Black Flag. I would say number 3 is Syndicate. Yeah, number 3 is Syndicate, the Victorian England one.
I feel like no one talks about that game.
That's the last one I played. Really quite enjoyed it, actually. But
yeah, it had some weird.
That was a different team.
That's another game that had the same female-male switching, but no one cared about that then.
Well, they weren't identical either. They were brother and sister.
Yeah, and also I think there was 1 or 2 gameplay changes between the two.
Yes, they had slightly different mechanics. A slightly different. One skill was different.
Yeah,
and then there is a point in the game where you have to switch characters.
Right.
So you still get to play both within one playthrough.
Right.
But what attracted me to it was the Saints Row 3 lead designer. And I was a big Saints Row 3 fan. I still am, obviously. And especially the kind of area control aspect of that game was very Saints Row, and I thought very good. I actually 100%ed the map in Syndicate.
You mean all the gang crap?
Yeah, the gang crap.
Yeah. Let's see. I would say number 4. I might say Assassin's Creed Rogue. That was a pretty cool game.
Really? Isn't that like just more Black Flag?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, the gameplay mechanics are very similar, but I really like the story of this guy growing like disillusioned with the assassins, like the Brotherhood, and like becoming a Templar, and then just like fucking with the assassin, like the Brotherhood. And I guess 5, I'd say Odyssey, Odyssey or not. Odyssey, and like 2 is fine, but 2 is like on the threshold now of being like a little hard to get into at this point.
No love for Unity.
No. I actually had an argument with someone about that. She was like this big Assassin's Creed fangirl online, and she was like, "Oh, it's so, like she works at Ubisoft as like an Assassin's Creed like influencer or something." And she said like yesterday, she was like, "At some point, I should play Assassin's Creed Rogue." And I was like, "You didn't play it?" And she was like, "No, I played Unity." And I was like, "What?" Like,
oh, I mean, that was the big one. You know,
Yeah,
it was the A game,
one.
and then the other one's the B game.
And then
Sometimes the B game
Unity was the Assassin's Creed game when the next gen console, the current gen consoles came out.
You know, sometimes the B project turns out better than the A project.
Right.
You know, so but Unity at least had very, very, very pretty environments and really good crowd.
I mean, that's all it had though. Like the gameplay Unity was broken because like ranged enemies could like take you out in like one shot, and like that game had such icon overbloat because of all the chests you could pick up.
Oh yeah, the map looked insane.
Yeah, it's like holy shit! Like it was like freaking me out.
Such pretty chairs, such lovely drawing rooms, the carpeting, the wall.
Unity also had the worst. I think Unity also had the worst story of an Assassin's Creed game.
Oh,
I'm still pissed about Assassin's Creed 3 because that American Revolutionary War times is like one of my favorite times in history to go back and like, you know, read about and all that. And it's like, it's just frustrating that that's like one of the worst games.
I mean, I think 3 gets unfairly maligned. Like it had problems, but at its core, I think it's still fine.
That's disappointing for how it completely shits the bed with the Desmond story and basically ruins the series. And then it doesn't have the gameplay-wise. My biggest problem with it is it doesn't have the verticality of Assassin's Creed, so it doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed really. The stealth stuff is severely poor.
That they didn't fix that in any of the other ones either.
No,
Syndicate kind of has that, I guess, but
Syndicate is a return to normalcy a little bit, even though it was still in many ways systemically quite different.
That's a question. Is like the Vikings aren't in Valhalla. It's not like there are kind of big Viking buildings. Like, what are you going to be climbing?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is like you're really just conquering because they don't really stay in one place that long.
Yeah,
they're nomadic. So
right. But then the third disappointing thing to me about Assassin's Creed 3 is that they really didn't do a good job of conveying the big historical set pieces.
Oh no!
Like you were always on the outskirts of them. You barely saw any of it, and when there was a big battle, your involvement in the big battle would amount to walk behind this row of soldiers and press a button to tell them to fire.
Or like you sneak onto the ship and throw the tea, throw the tea in the water.
Okay, that is actually one of the best missions. I mean, I know it's annoying having to like get to the ship. There's that whole thing we have to like walk through the harbor, right?
Yeah.
Is that the mission? Yeah. So that part obviously sucks, but at least it's like a mission that feels significant and feels like it ties into the story in a major way and into history.
That's what upset me the most too, is that you don't really get a lot of the big historical parts like you do in some of the other games. So it's just like, this is what I'm playing this game for, and I don't get that.
Do you get Benjamin Franklin's theory that women age from the bottom up? So
that's accurate.
There's that.
So what about you guys? What are your lists?
I haven't made a list, but I can just go off the top of my head because it's fairly easy.
Yeah.
So you've got obviously Assassin's Creed 2 at the top, still the best Assassin's Creed game. When the series really got good, when they introduced most of the systems that we all know and love, or at least, well, they didn't introduce all of them, but fleshed them out to a point where they all worked really well. Big, expansive world, really impressive visually for the time, yada, yada, yada. Best Assassin's Creed game still to me. Of course, you could say that Brotherhood is even better, but Brotherhood to me is just a slight evolution of 2. Still, Brotherhood is my second best. So, those 2 games, they're very close together in my heart. In fact, they probably even run together in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I played them within a year of each other, and they tell a continuous story. And the one basically is the other with a couple more systems and refinements and quality of life changes, but maybe a slightly weaker story. But, they're very close together in quality. I still think I like 2 best, but those are my top 2. And then after that, it becomes wishy-washy, where I might say Black Flag at number 3 and Syndicate at number 4.
That's fine. Yeah.
And then number 5, probably the original Assassin's Creed, even though it was a big disappointment to me at the time. But yeah, I'm finding it hard to think of other Assassin's Creed games that I would want to put on this list. I definitely don't want to put 3 into any top 5. Haven't played Odyssey or the one that came before Odyssey. Origins, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I did play Liberation, but Liberation, again, is not anywhere near this thing. And Liberation was impressive as a Vita game. I played it on the Vita.
Right.
See, I played it on the console, and it just played like an Assassin's Creed game, only you have like different dresses.
Yeah.
I know like the Vita version is very different though. The console version, like they basically modernized it, or they made it basically play like Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah, the Vita version has its issues. I also just don't like the mission design very much, but it's incredibly impressive from a technical standpoint and the fact that they were able to do it. Well, incredibly impressive, maybe overstating it. But, at the time I was like, this is very neat. More so than I think with Uncharted, which just felt like, the budget, like TV version of Uncharted.
When you're like having to like scratch the back of the Vita to unload to see the map.
It's like once you get to the later Columbus, like once you get to the like 80s Columbo episodes, and you're going to be like, this show is a shell of its former self.
Just like Doctor Who.
Well, Doctor Who is not that it's a shell of its former self, it's that it's totally different than its former self.
Used to be good, now it's bad. I agree.
It's a little different. I think whether you think it's good or bad depends on your perspective, on your predilections. But I'll admit that I did not like when they got rid of Mary Gold, because Mary Gold to me was the heart and soul of the show.
How well? Sean?
Well, I've said it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
My number 1 is the Black Flag. It's the one that I spent the most time in. I love the naval combat. I love being able to go to the settlements, do stuff. So that's my favorite of all of them. I think it's the best one. I agree with all you guys that Brotherhood is probably right there, number 2. It's probably the best version of that Assassin's Creed gameplay.
The classic formula.
Yeah, the classic formula that people like fell in love with. I also, like Jens, I didn't play, I haven't played Origins or Odyssey to be able to give an opinion on those.
I think Odyssey is a better game than Origins, at least take it for what that's worth.
I think most people would say that as well. I think I'll agree with you guys that Syndicate is number 3, right there.
Syndicate is a tad weird because, like, they flirted a little with introducing the RPG mechanics in that game. Like, enemies have levels in that game, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you remember correctly.
So, like, it's not like full on, like, Odyssey or Origins where, like, if this enemy is higher level, then you can't one-shot kill them with the hidden blade. You still can do that in Syndicate at least. But Syndicate had, like, this guy, if you just want, like, get in combat with him, he might kill you because he's, like, 5 levels higher than you.
I felt like Syndicate was just the right level of RPG elements, though.
Yeah. I would say that. Like,
light sprinkling.
I just like it. I just like the action or stealth of the earlier games better, like Brotherhood or even like Black Flag. Like you had like upgrade mechanics, but it's all just like, hey, I just want better gear. Like, if you really wanted, you could run through that game with like the basic sword. It'd be hard, but you could do it. But like in Odyssey and Origins, you literally cannot do that.
Right. Your gear has to be on the same level as whatever.
Yeah, you have like a gear score, and I'm like, what? Why don't I just have the hidden blade? Like,
yeah, that's I think why I'm. Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, like, Origins and Odyssey also, you can get like weapons that are constantly on fire or like poison enemies. And I think this is weird. Like, but go on, sorry.
I mean, it seems like it's just trying to be a full-on loot game.
Yeah, it's like Destiny.
Yeah, that too.
But it's like this. I don't want that. I could play those games. I don't want that in this game.
Sure.
After that, I'm kind of like Jens. I don't have a particular, like, strong feeling. I feel like I want to I have played some of Liberations and I did enjoy it. I'm like Mark though, I played the console version.
Yeah.
I had a Vita. So I'll put that in number 5, and I think, just for the time that I enjoyed going back and playing Assassin's Creed 2, I'll put that in number 4. And there you go. There's my...
Yeah. No, none of us put Assassin's Creed Chronicles down.
No, didn't play it.
Oh, those things?
Yeah.
I like them for what they are, but they're not, again, it's just like, they're not Assassin's Creed, they're just...
Right, they're 2D platformers.
Yeah. You know, if anything you've heard about me in this year, I enjoy my 2D platformer, but it's not an Assassin's Creed game. You're just in a cloak platforming. Cool. But yeah, that's what are your top Assassin's Creed games? You can let us know at w2network@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter at HumanityPlague, at Aperture Silence, at w2msean, at w2network for the whole thing. Check out that w2net.com. Marc's Animal Crossing New Horizons review should be live by the time you're listening to this. And yeah, I think that's about it. I gotta get my reviews going. I'm way behind what I have to be writing, but yeah.
We need to get at least one 3-player game together in Snowrunner.
We'll see how that goes. But yeah, till the next time, which is Tuesday morning, we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Later.